1961. A cold night in New York. Millions of people were sitting in front of their televisions. But that night, it wasn't just another broadcast. Something else was happening. Something deliberate. A man was being humiliated in front of everyone. And that man was Bumpy Johnson. Victor Hale leaned forward under the bright studio lights. Confident, controlled, polished. The kind of man people trusted without ever questioning why. He looked directly into the camera and smiled. Harlem's so-called king is nothing more than a well-dressed street animal. The room went silent, not because people were shocked, but because they knew exactly who he was talking about. Bumpy Johnson. Across the city, in a dim Harlem apartment, Bumpy Johnson sat perfectly still. A glass of cognac rested calmly in his hand. The television flickered in front of him, casting shadows across his face. No anger, no reaction, no emotion at all. Just a faint smile. Behind him, 3 men stood in silence, tense, waiting. "Say the word," one of them said quietly. "We'll handle it tonight." Bumpy didn't even turn his head, didn't raise his voice, didn't tighten his grip. He simply said, "Victor Hale isn't my enemy." The room froze. Confusion spread across their faces. "What do you mean? He just disrespected you in front of the whole city." Bumpy finally moved. He placed the glass down slowly and stood up. "He's just the mouth." A quiet breath filled the room. Then Bumpy continued. "The question is, who's speaking through him?" That was the moment everything changed. Because Bumpy Johnson was never reacting to the surface. He was reading what was underneath it. To understand that, you have to understand Harlem. Harlem wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a system, a fragile balance of money, power, and survival. And Bumpy Johnson understood that balance better than anyone. He didn't shout to control people. He didn't threaten to prove strength. Because real control doesn't need to announce itself. But outside Harlem, there were men watching, waiting, calculating. Men like Carlo Bellini. Bellini wasn't loud. He wasn't reckless. He didn't believe in chaos. He believed in structure. And more importantly, he believed in perception. Because if you can control how people see a man, you don't have to fight him. You just have to wait for everyone else to turn against him. Victor Hale wasn't chosen by accident. He was selected, refined, positioned, because he looked clean, sounded intelligent, and spoke with authority. But what people didn't see was the pressure behind him, the debt, the mistakes, the leverage. Victor Hale wasn't speaking freely. He was speaking for someone else. Bumpy didn't react. He investigated. Quiet calls were made. Doors were opened. Names surfaced. Connections aligned. Money trails appeared. Within 48 hours, Bumpy Johnson knew everything. Who was behind it, why it started, and how it would end. The city waited. One day passed. Then another. Still no response. People started to talk. Maybe he's scared. Maybe he's lost control. Maybe it's over. But Bumpy wasn't silent because he was weak. He was silent because he was preparing. Then the message came. 3 simple words. "I'll be there." No explanation. No emotion. No hesitation. The night of the broadcast arrived. The city felt different, like something was about to break. A black Cadillac rolled to a stop. The door opened, and Bumpy Johnson stepped out, calm, measured, unshaken. He wasn't walking into a confrontation. He was walking into a conclusion. Inside the studio, Victor Hale smiled again. But this time, it didn't reach his eyes. Because something felt off. Something had shifted. Bumpy sat down, hands relaxed, eyes steady. And just like that, the balance was gone. Victor leaned forward. "Tell me something," he said. "What makes you think you belong in a civilized society?" Bumpy didn't blink, didn't react. He simply replied, "The same thing that makes you think you do." A ripple moved through the room. Victor felt it, and for the first time, he hesitated. Then Bumpy moved. Slowly, deliberately, he reached into his pocket, not for a weapon, for something far more dangerous: the truth, documents, names, proof. You weren't asking questions, you were following instructions. And the man behind them isn't in this room. Victor's expression changed. Subtle at first, then obvious, then impossible to hide. Because the illusion was gone. The control was gone. The narrative was gone. Bumpy didn't raise his voice, didn't threaten, didn't attack. He didn't need to, because the moment had already passed, and the outcome was already decided. He stood up, straightened his jacket, and walked away. No noise, no reaction, no victory speech, just silence. And that silence said everything. Real power doesn't react. It waits. It watches. It understands. And when the moment comes, it doesn't fight. It wins. Bumpy Johnson never reacted, because he had already seen the real enemy.